What is up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the sixth episode of Hot Takes. And today we're going to be talking about DC because I love DC. Not the movies, though. The movies been not so good. And so that's what we're going to be talking about is how we would essentially reboot the DC extended universe. Now, the way that I'm going to do it is we're just going to be talking about just a few of the more important movies, uh, which would only be three. So it would be Justice League, Batman vs. Superman, and Man of Steel. And because James Gunn is rebooting this entire thing and getting rid of this, obviously it's still connected with the new DCU, at least so far, at least, right? So he's obviously going to keep some elements, and that's what we're going to be talking about: is what to keep, what to discard, how to fix what was a good idea but not a good idea from the Snyderverse. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And today I have one guest. Everybody's sort of been busy, and obviously I moved this stream up to Friday, but usually this would happen on Sunday for the people that are on the replay. So here's my guest, Monkey. He's back. His annoying ass is back.
Hey everybody, it's Amazing Monkey.
Oh man, this is why. And we just, I don't think anybody's gonna want to hear that.
What do you
mean? Have to
mean?
ban you.
What do you mean? Go yeah, ban your only guest. You're gonna ban your only guest.
Yeah.
Good show, buddy. Good show. Talk to yourself, you fuck.
Well, I might do next week. I might try to do a stream by myself because I can't be having that shit in my ear, bruh.
Wow, that's some weird type shit. That's some weirdo shit. You're gonna have to have a guest. You just can't. You can't talk to yourself, man. That's some
I can if I have notes. I could pull it off. But anyway, we got a short show because I want to see The Last of Us. So I want your thoughts on the DC movies so far. I guess we don't really have a lot of DC shows, right? The DC extended shows. I think the only one we got was Peacemaker. Right? Am I tripping? Peacemaker's the only one.
Yeah, in the main line. Because
I'm not a fan of the CW shows. I do like Doom Patrol, but Doom Patrol is obviously not in.
All I know is that the Flash from the DCU was a guest. He was like a cameo.
Yes, he was in a cameo in
that shitty Flash show.
I'm not a fan of any of the CW shows. I think the only one I really watched a lot was Legends of Tomorrow for whatever reason. I have no clue why I watched it, but
I tried watching Arrow the first season, but
I hated the first season.
So long, and it was like didn't even feel like Green Arrow. I was like, what is this shit? And then I watched some of season 2, like I just skipped through it to see the Deathstroke stuff. And I'm like, why is Slade why is Slade such a like a major villain for Green Arrow? I'm like, why don't you do a Teen Titans show if they wanted to?
I'm pretty sure Deathstroke was in Green Arrow year 1.
Yeah, but Slade Wilson, he's better known for being a main villain for like the Teen Titans and stuff, right? Because him and Dick, I mean, he
public perception, yeah.
Yeah, like he's more of a I would call him more of a Teen Titans villain, right? So if you like, that's the thing. If I don't know what they're doing in that other show that where I forgot the name, but it's where the guy goes, "You fuck Batman."
Oh, Titans! How can you?
Titans.
All Titans,
bro.
That show was canceled.
That show was canceled.
All of the DC, I mean, except for Superman and Lois. Stargirl is canceled. I wanted to watch Stargirl. I still might watch it. Doom Patrol is going to be canceled.
I heard Superman and Lois were like,
I heard it was pretty decent, but I'm not. Again, it's just that CW quality. I'm not really a fan of.
That CW love, that CW dialogue.
I can't handle it. But anyway, I want to specifically talk about trying to fix this DCEU because this DCEU, I have to say, is
broken. Can't fix that shit.
I think it's salvageable in some cases, like because I was even saying like you can't recast Aquaman, right? Because I know there's a lot of rumors about who's going to get recast. Obviously, it seems that we're getting a Batman and Superman recast. So it would kind of make sense that you would want to recast all of the Justice League members, but it seems like that's not the case. Because if Aquaman or any of these movies coming out this year make a decent amount of money,
$1 billion.
I would say $1 billion, but if it turns a profit and it's successful, and I don't see why they couldn't bring back Zachary Levi as Shazam or Jason Momoa as Aquaman. It kind of just makes sense. But
makes sense to get rid of 3 and keep 3.
Well, would you want Ezra Miller to come back?
I mean, apparently that's the. I mean, I want to see him as a Flash. I want to see because I didn't really see. I remember I didn't see Justice League, so I don't know how he was in that movie. But I hear people like him as Flash, so I'm like maybe. I mean, that Flash.
He's not even really Barry Allen. I would say he's more like Wally West. He's a little bit more jokey. He's inexperienced. And I've seen both Justice League. I know you haven't seen both of them. You don't really care to watch them. That's fine.
Well,
they're not the greatest.
The original cut was terrible, and then the second Snyder cut is better. But I'm like 3 hours or 4 hours. How long is it? Like 3, 4?
Yeah, it's like close.
Oh
to 4
my
hours.
God! I could do something.
And the thing
valuable.
is, here's the thing, right? Like that movie, even though it doesn't actually feel like 4 hours, which is weird. It still isn't like a lot of content was needed for those 4 hours, if that makes sense. So, yeah, this is a group chat call because this is on a Friday. But yeah, let's start with Man of Steel. We are getting a new Superman movie, Superman Legacy. So I assume, based on what James Gunn said, because he said that we are getting a Superman movie where he's already Superman, but it's a younger version of Superman, which is going to be like 25. Now, in Man of Steel, I'm pretty sure Superman's maybe in his late 20s, and it's his whole origin story. Now, okay, this is my problem with Man of Steel. Man of Steel is really not a Superman movie. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but it feels so disconnected to what Superman stands for, what he represents. That I didn't enjoy it. I remember when this movie first came out, I was super excited for it. I love Superman. And that movie kind of killed my excitement for anything Superman related. I mean, I was still excited about Batman vs. Superman, but I was not a big fan of Henry Cavill's Superman, right? Which, sure, he looks the part, but he definitely was not
the part in terms of the character. Because that,
at least from what we've seen. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a poorly, because it's like he stands for hope, but he just comes off as like kind of an asshole, right?
Well, he's kind of been taught that. We'll get into that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, he's so terrible. I know it's his first thing, but he's so terrible at being Superman. Like, I'm sorry, but he killed a bunch of people in that building, and I think even Zack Snyder realized how stupid it was that was the plot of Batman v Superman, where Batman's like, you're bad, man. You're gonna, you cause all this destruction and mayhem, right? So it's like, if you watch that movie, you're like, yeah, he's technically just killing people when he's fighting the other Kryptonians, right? Yeah. So he's fighting Zod and the others. So it's like, yeah, he's definitely just killing people. And then, what happens at the end? I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
I'm not even okay. The ending is stupid, but the point that you were touching
wouldn't do that.
Where the thing is, this is not Superman, right? And it's explained in the movie because first off, the first indication why he's not Superman is because his parents are pretty much like, hey, you can't be Superman because it's going to put your life at jeopardy. People are going to reject you. People are going to think you're weird. Society's going to come down. Who knows? The government might come after you, right? Which is what they happen, right? So if you were going to now make a new Superman movie, right, I would not mind if the events of this movie happen in the James Gunn Superman movie, but just get rid of the details, right? Jonathan Kent does not die, right? Jonathan Kent should be still alive, in my opinion, and he should be the one who is guiding Clark, right? He shouldn't be the one who's like, no, don't save me. You don't deserve to save me, right? people don't deserve to know your identity. To be honest, that's so un-Superman, right? Because Superman, when he's growing up, right, the Kents are supposed to guide him. They're supposed to give him good principles, good morals, and that's why he's such a Boy Scout. Is because like he loves his parents and he follows what they taught him.
Well, that's why he's a good person.
Yeah, and it does make sense that in the Man of Steel, that he's listening to what his parents are saying because, well, he doesn't really have another frame of reference, right? So if you're going to introduce Superman for the first time again with a new actor, it should be that his parents are still alive and they're the ones kind of guiding him to be Superman. They should be fully aware that he is Superman, right? And he would go to them asking them, hey, I have this problem, or because it seems like Superman Legacy is going to be dealing with sort of his I mean, it's in the title, his legacy, right? Him being on Earth and technically being part of humanity, but also the Kryptonian part of his heritage. So all of that, to me, I feel like
supposed to be the best human, but he's an alien.
Yeah. And to hear James Gunn say that this is going to be classic Superman, but in a world where it's very cynical, that is literally what I've been saying for like years and years. Just literally do that same concept. You have Superman who's still the same, still the Boy Scout who is always a do-gooder,
pretty
never does
boy,
anything
goody
wrong.
two shoes.
Yeah. But then you put him up against, hey, people don't really like Superman. And I think that might sell people who are kind of, because there's this whole thing on Twitter, which is just insane, where it's like people are like, oh, Superman is lame. He's such a lame superhero, right? He's not interesting. Superman can be interesting. Superman can be completely badass.
Well, for one, he is badass, but I think it's just that people think he's like, there's nothing that you could do. People don't think there's much you can do with Superman because he's just supposed to be a good boy. Or a goody two shoes.
Yeah.
Where something like Batman is something more complex, right? Because it's a dude with some fucking problems, but that's the thing. It's not just Batman. It's his rogues gallery. It's the stories he could tell with those characters too. So
sure, but I still think we should get away from that too, especially with this DC.
Well, the thing they should get away with is the constant use of. I know they didn't use him, and well, technically kind of did use him, but the Joker. He's always prevalent in anything Batman. So it's like they overuse him. Like in the Arkham games, for example, I like the Arkham games, but like Joker is overused, to be honest. Or he's always like,
Joker is overused, definitely.
Like they kept doing this where even in the second game, you think Hugo Strange is supposed to be the main villain. He's a puppet for and then you think, oh, it might be Ra's al Ghul, but no, he's a puppet. He's not technically a puppet, but he wasn't the main villain because it was Joker. And then again in Arkham Origins, right? Black Mask being Joker, you're like, oh my god. And then in the last game, I mean, even though Scarecrow is the villain in Arkham Knight 2, it's really Joker, right? It's really Joker at the end. So it's like, he's overused in everything. It's just like you gotta have to, move away from that. So
and also if we're talking still on Superman and overused villains. Again, Zod should be dealt with. I don't want to see any mention of General Zod in Superman Legacy.
What if they use? Because I think Brainiac could be way too early, right?
Brainiac's way too early. But General Zod, like I said, Man of Steel, the active fix would be get rid of the details of Man of Steel and just say Superman. His first villain was General Zod, kind of like the first Superman movie, right? He meets Lois Lane at the Daily Planet.
He really works at the Daily Planet.
Yeah, all of that stuff.
Really established.
The kind of story beats of Man of Steel you could keep. Just get rid of the details. Get rid of this whole, I don't want to be Superman. No, none of that makes any sense, right? And obviously, you're going to have to make it seem like, well, this is when he's been, I don't know, he was like 22, 23. And then obviously the movie takes place when he's like 25, 26. So he's been like Superman for like 3 years, right? That's how I would kind of, I don't know if that's a fix to Man of Steel of just like basically doing the complete opposite but keeping the story beats.
Just don't do like just the origin stuff. It's like nobody cares.
Yeah.
Just have it all
Also, you got to
established.
get rid of the city destruction part.
Oh yeah, Metropolis.
Yeah, because I could see James Gunn at the beginning of Superman Legacy doing a montage of what happened to Superman, just so we're familiar. And it's kind of almost like a retelling of other Superman movies, but just with the new actor. And so I think Man of Steel would be like, you mix Man of Steel with the Superman movie a little bit, and that way it's like, okay, well, this is definitely a Superman that we've already seen before. And so people are kind of comfortable with, okay, I could get behind him, right? Unlike, I feel like, what's his name as Superman? In Superman Returns. Brendan Routh.
Dude, I could not remember his name.
Yeah, and Superman. I like Superman Returns though. I know a lot of people.
I don't even remember much about that. I just remember the airplane scene. I remember, Lex Luthor being Kevin Spacey, and there was a scene where he throws him off a waterfall or something.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was like, that movie as a kid. I was like, I don't know what I was like skimming through it as a kid. Like my brain was
just a long movie for a kid.
For a kid, yeah, dude. Because the last time I saw it I was like a kid, man. I was like fucking, like what, 8 years old or something.
That movie definitely has problems, but like if you ask me, I would pick that movie over Man of Steel. I think that's kind of a hot take, but I don't like Man of Steel at all. I think Man of Steel is excessive. It doesn't understand Superman. It reinvented Superman in an interesting way where it's like this bombastic action, and it made Superman really cool, which I don't mind.
It's cool, but he's fucking stupid.
But he's stupid. He's unlikable. He's not. It's almost like, and we'll get into this with Batman vs Superman. It's almost like doesn't want to be Superman, which is very weird.
Yeah, that's how I felt, because it's like he just doesn't want to be Superman.
No,
like he feels like almost like this, like a little kid that's being forced to do something. They're like, I don't want to do it, but I have to do it.
And there's never really a good reason of why he has to do it.
Yeah,
it's almost like I have to do this because of General Zod and my connection to Krypton. But it makes me wonder, like, if General Zod was not the villain of Man of Steel and it was just some other random alien from the DC universe, right?
Martian Manhunter.
Well, you can't do Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter has been retroactively retconned into Man of Steel. I don't know if you realize this, but yeah,
I know it's a general.
It's the general. So,
yeah.
But
apparently, I thought they said that he was supposed to reveal himself as Martian Manhunter or something.
In Man of Steel, I think
because there's a scene where everyone's afraid of Superman. He just stands still, and Zack Snyder said that he was supposed to be Martian Manhunter, but they never actually shot the scene where like you see
where you see him. Yeah, I heard that. I don't know if there was a storyboard of it, but
yeah, I mean, if he's bullshitting, like I don't mind it, because I'm like the justification for him being Martian Manhunter, I'm like, okay, I can see it, just because he's a shapeshifter, right? Like he'll just change form, and the fact that he's not afraid of Superman, it's like, okay, I kind of get. Like, why would it just makes sense that this guy wouldn't be afraid of him, because he himself is pretty powerful. But I mean, Superman would fucking kill him.
Well, that's also another thing that is weird about the DC extended universe, the DCEU, is that technically superheroes already existed before Superman, which, yes, that does make sense, but I don't think in Batman, the universe, it's kind of like, it should be like an Iron Man situation, where Iron Man is kind of like the first public. I mean, well, there's Captain America, right? But
he's propaganda. He was a World War II hero. He wasn't really
the point I'm trying to make is you need a character who kind of like introduces the world to the idea that superheroes are like officially a thing. And every time, even the MCU, when they go back and they kind of retcon it, obviously I understand with Captain America, you can't do it any other way. But like with Captain Marvel and stuff, just pick one character that makes sense. Like Superman is a character that would be, in my opinion, the first character who's kind of
Well, Captain Marvel, and I thought it was also established that the reason why nobody knows about her is because she just left Earth. She
left Earth, but she still was the one who started the idea of
it was stupid. The idea that I forgot about that. That was really, you know what else
I don't
about that
like
movie
that
was dumb was, you know, when they retconned Nick Fury's eye.
Yes. I mean, we can't get too much into that. This is DC stuff.
But that's funny, though.
We'll have to talk about Captain Marvel one day because it is not a good movie.
It's a wacky fucking movie. The best part was the, even though they're not like the Skrulls at all, but like, they were the best part of the movie.
That movie's a mess. But I mean, do you agree with that? Like, Superman should be the first character that appears in this?
Well, yeah, I think Superman should always be the first.
It just makes sense.
He is the first superhero.
He is the first modern.
And he was made by a Canadian.
Well, Canadians, yeah.
Flex on.
I mean,
flex on all the Americans.
I mean, I hope that's. I mean, they're probably not, but it would be kind of cool if Metropolis in the new DCU was based on Toronto. Yes,
that'd be hilarious, dude.
I mean, you would have to make it a little bit more flamboyant, but I mean, it would kind of make sense.
Do you know that Toronto is like the most? I think it was like the number one most overhyped city, like by tourists.
I mean, we live here and people overhype it. So, I mean,
Toronto is.
I would rather live.
I'm gonna tell people, hey, don't come to Toronto. Go to Vancouver.
Yeah, go somewhere else. The thing is, there's not a lot of people here compared to like other cities. So
most of us live in this small bubble in Ontario.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking. That's actually a real thing.
Yeah, definitely. It is. But anyway, I guess besides that, whoops. I had my
besides that, just make a good Superman movie. Just make it true to the character.
Yeah, just
isn't it based on Superman All-Star?
Well, I think he's going to take a lot of other inspirations, like Tom King's Up in the Sky.
Up in the Sky.
You know, Grant Morrison did write All-Star Superman, but he also did Action Comics New 52.
Oh yeah, I remember also that one. Yeah.
Like I could see if you're gonna do Superman Legacy again, I could see it opening with he has no costume yet. He just has the Grant Morrison jeans and shirt with the blanket as his cape. Like that to me would be cool. Yeah, that could be in the montage in the beginning. That would make sense.
Yeah.
So I guess moving on from Man of Steel to Batman vs Superman, which is another movie where, again, with all three of these movies that I'm picking, like essentially would just be they all technically did happen still. It's just the events and the details have changed. Okay, because you can't do it any other way, right? And I think it's also pretty simple. Like you have Superman is the first superhero, kind of like the one with powers, right? You can have this is what I mean. Now I'm like realizing that might be a contradiction because I would still have Batman exist, right? Batman is still a thing.
Or they started around the same time.
I don't know. Sure. Okay. We'll use that. We'll use that. But then here's the thing, though.
Superman was just he was just more known.
Here's the thing. They can't do that, though. They can't do that because Damian Wayne is going to be the Robin. So that means you have to have a Batman who's been established. You can't do it any other way.
He's supposed to be much older than Superman then.
Yes. So that's what I mean. If you have, if let's just say Superman is the first meta-human type to be revealed, right? Batman is kind of like a vigilante. So, people are kind of accustomed to him, but they're not accustomed to Superman, right? And then you can kind of, fill out a timeline where other Justice League members and other characters start appearing because of Superman's kind of big reveal to the world. So it's almost like a golden age, and then where we pick up. So there's maybe like a golden age for like 3 years of these characters appearing, right? Or some of them are kind of like being reintroduced to the public, I guess, even though they were working undercover.
I mean,
whatever which way.
I guess they could say that like there's been other DC characters that have been around in the universe,
Mhm.
but how many people know about them? That depends. Like how many
Mhm.
people? Let's say they do Constantine. How many people know about John Constantine?
Well, I
Right?
would say
Not
none.
very.
You don't need to
Yeah,
have
you
people
don't
know.
need to know
Yeah.
much about him. So that's the thing. He could be there,
Same thing with
already been
Swamp
there, but
Thing,
he Swamp Thing again. Even I mean
Booster Gold, Green
Lobo.
Lantern, I would
If we're gonna
say.
do Lobo, Lobo could be a character that they could have. He's just a guy that people that really want someone dead or something go after Lobo. Hey, could you do this for me and stuff? And he
Mhm.
would go and kill whoever, right? Because Lobo's whole thing is that
If they
he
do,
does it
whenever
by
they do
yeah.
Lobo.
Yeah, like there's certain characters that are like Deathstroke would make sense. So have already been there. He's the world's
Mhm.
best assassin, right? So like stuff like that, like characters have been around, whether it's villains, superheroes, or in between that
And
type
this
of
is
stuff.
all just like the preamble. Like this is the pre-timeline before we actually get to James Gunn's universe. So you're just taking what has already existed, molding it so it kind of makes sense for the new universe. So then you can go, okay,
Right.
here's like the gist, and now just follow this story. Like you're not even going to get movies based on these because they technically already exist. That's how I
Yeah.
see it happening, like making the most amount of sense. Because like you really can't do another Wonder Woman origin story. You can't do even a
Yeah.
Green Lantern
They're
origin
not
story.
even doing a Wonder Woman origin. They're doing a fucking 100-year prequel, I think, or something with the
Yeah, at least at
Amazonians,
first. That's the first
the
project.
TV show. Yeah.
So I mean, okay, now going to Batman versus Superman, right? Like Batman versus Superman
Big
again. I
blow.
would keep that idea that they meet. I think they have to be the ones who meet, and Batman is kind of like, again, we all know Batman's kind of character where
He's cautious.
he's cautious. He's a bit, yeah, he wants to know what's going on, right? And so he looks into Superman. And I do not mind if they get into a scuffle at first, like in their initial, introduction to each
Mm.
other, and sort of, again, coming to terms, right? But you can't have that Martha scene, obviously. You cannot have
No.
Lex
Your
Luthor.
mom's name is Martha. What?
This should just be Superman has like that fight with Zod, and some other things have happened since then. And so Batman comes in and is like, hey, you know, you can't really be, I'm kind of cautious about you or whatever, right?
Yeah,
I'm
Batman never trusts anybody.
I
That's his
think
whole
that
thing.
it's just the problem with Batman versus Superman is Batman versus Superman as a movie is so focused on, first off, setting up the Justice League, setting up um the confrontation with Lex Luthor, and then
Not only that, it literally skipped.
Doomsday,
Yeah, like literally just goes into Doomsday in
the
like
stuff
5
with
minutes.
Batman, right? Because Batman is
Yeah,
a totally different character where he's
yeah, you
dealing with the
already
loss
killed
of
off.
Robin.
Yeah, he killed off what? Like I guess it's Dick Grayson because it's not Jason Todd.
Well, it's not Dick Grayson. It's never been confirmed
It-
who it is. We could just assume it's Jason Todd because of the
I
comics.
always thought it was. Yeah, I mean, but the one that has, but he has a staff right in the movie. If he has a staff, I would think it'd be Tim. But like, I guess it's supposed to be Jason because Jason's the only, well, besides Damien in that
Well,
one.
Jason Todd is the only famous kill, right? So it just makes
Yeah.
sense to assume it's him. Like the fact that this is another thing that I'm glad we're moving on from the Snyderverse is the Snyderverse was not interested in actually setting up a universe. It was interested in telling one story and then doing whatever it wants with the characters instead of
Well,
thinking
yeah.
like
I
the
mean,
comics. Yeah.
It was interested in just flash forward to the epic Justice League movie without having the actual justification and like effort put in to get to that point.
Mhm.
Because you did Superman, Batman, and then you did a Wonder Woman movie that just it
It
wasn't
was
even
not
her,
enough. It was not enough to
and that
get to a
movie
Justice
wasn't
League.
even, and it wasn't even her when we know of her, like in her present day. It was just her in the past to explain some story about her boyfriend. And it's
Yeah.
like sure, you established she's a person that wants to help people and shit, but you could have done that with a modern day Wonder Woman. She's dealing with the gods and shit, and dealing with Zeus and all that crap, and the Amazonians. Like, could have done that or something, right?
Well, I think the
Think about it, no other hero
we're kind of
has
jumping the gun with the Wonder Woman because I am realizing, that's something that probably shouldn't stay. It should either be she's
her movie
introduced
stands out.
to the modern day.
Yeah,
because
her
then
movies stand out because her movies are always like I think the second one's in the 80s, right?
The second, this is the thing, right? This is why the second movie is a retcon, which I did not see the second movie. For people watching, I don't really care to watch it, to be honest. I might watch it just
watch it for Pedro
one
Pascal.
time. No, he's terrible in the movie from what I've seen. But that movie retroactively retcons the first movie because and Batman vs Superman, because in Batman vs Superman it's established that Wonder Woman is only now coming to back into the public eye, right? So why would
no one knows about her.
Yeah, no one knows about her, but all of a sudden she was fighting in the 80s. So that to me is also doesn't make much sense.
Like, why do they keep doing that with Wonder Woman? Why are her movies always in the past?
Yeah, and Wonder Woman. Well, with Batman vs Superman, again, the things that you would have to take out for this reboot, which would, in my opinion, be fixing the movie, is get rid of Wonder Woman in that movie. It doesn't make sense for her to be in the movie. Like, they should have called it. Shows up.
Batman v Superman, including Wonder Woman. Including Doomsday.
The movie is like trying to jump the gun and be like, we're trying to form the Justice League. And it's like, this is not an organic way to form the Justice League in a live action setting, right? It was almost like they're trying to compete with Marvel, but then they realized, we're not going to do with what Marvel is doing. Yeah,
they jumped the gun because, like, in the Marvel universe, only like a couple of characters met each other, right? And then mainly everyone met each other, like
in Avengers.
In Avengers, because like
Avengers,
you said, like in Iron Man 2, you have Black Widow, right? And then in Thor, you saw a cameo with Hawkeye, but they never interacted. But you're established that he's there. Mm-hmm. So it's like they never really met. But in Avengers is when they meet, and that's when they learn to work together. Whereas like in Batman,
you know what's weird too. What's really weird, because again, you didn't see the two Justice League movies. Both of them are essentially about assembling the Justice League, which again, I don't understand that, right? Like, if we are seeing Batman in Batman vs Superman, sorry, I had a blank thought. He's assembling the Justice League in Batman vs Superman. He's aware of Barry Allen. He's aware of Arthur Curry. He's aware of Cyborg, which again, weird, because Cyborg isn't a This is another weird thing I'm not sure if I understand. Cyborg in the Justice League cut, right? The 2017. That's how they differentiated Justice League, and then you have the Snyder cut. He's already Cyborg.
So stupid.
In the Zack Snyder cut, he's only been Cyborg for like a couple of weeks. But yet it appears almost like Batman vs Superman there's been like months in between Batman vs Superman and the Snyder cut. I might have to rewatch the movie to like understand the timeline, but that was the one thing that really confused me, because it was like, so Cyborg is only now getting to know his powers and like who he is. So it's like, well, why was he acting? Why did Batman have this footage of Cyborg doing all this stuff?
Because Batman, he sees from the future, man. Batman's role-based detective.
From the future, because that terrible scene where the Flash comes in.
Yeah, it's Lois. Lois is key. Remember? Okay, that was a weird voice, but that's what he sounds like when he fucking breaks the portal.
Yeah, he breaks. It was.
You know what?
It's an interesting idea. Marvel would never do something like that. But it was terribly executed. It was so laughable.
Do you think the Flash movie might like show it or something?
I was thinking the Flash movie might do something like that, where it goes back to a scene in one of these movies and like changes it up, because we do know that General Zod is in the Flash. right?
And the Flash is supposed to be the one that
Reboots this whole thing.
reboots this. So I think that scene is going to be in the movie because
I don't know if it will be in the movie.
No,
because
it could just be a different version of Flash,
or it could just be like them recreating that scene because they can't actually do that scene. That scene has the reason why that happened is because, again, this is all stuff that would have happened. It's not in Justice League, but essentially it would be that Lois dies, and as a result, Superman basically folds and he joins Darkseid, and he just ravages Earth looking for the anti-equation. And so everybody who's left over from this destruction, right? Batman's crew, Cyborg, Flash, Mera, I think it was Deathstroke. There's a couple other characters. They are the ones in what is called the Apocalypse timeline, trying to figure out how to stop Superman and basically defeat Darkseid. Right? That was the end game, their end game for the DCU, which was not a good idea, in my opinion. Do not do this whole Injustice Darkseid with the anti-equation. I hope that's not. That to me is like you don't do that right off the rip. I think especially because it's now way too similar to what Infinity War did.
Why does I just said this feeling? Why does Zack Snyder have such a hard on for aggressive, angry men?
I don't know.
Just makes Superman the nicest dude ever. Some angry fucking maniac. Just thinking about it. Even he's killing people, man.
I think it's because Zack Snyder's philosophy almost like conflicts with Superman. So like he can only see Superman as someone who would do something like this because he's so broken. And I mean, the thing is, it makes sense if it's an alternate universe like the Injustice game. Like, that's fine. I don't mind. But it doesn't make sense if Lois dies.
Well, that one did it better.
Superman would just snap. He would just go berserk. In my opinion, I don't believe that.
I think Injustice did it better because in Injustice, he kills Lois himself. So it's like, that would break him. Like,
it still wouldn't matter because he was under the influence. It wasn't. He was.
I don't know. I'm just saying it's a better reason for him to break rather than just her dying.
Yeah.
Right. If he was the one holding the,
he's the one that's at fault.
Yeah.
And so
he's the one. I mean, he butchered her, really, right? So it's like, he would blame himself or technically Joker, but that would break. Like, I could see that being a reason for him to break. I could see that. But like, just for her to just die and then him going, oh, well, I'm upset now. I'm really upset. I'm not going to kill a bunch of people.
Well, that's the thing I would want to see. We don't know what would have happened, right? Because even though we have an outline, Zack Snyder said, okay, like, this is not actually what's going to happen, which thank God, because we would have gotten this whole weird affair with Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane, and Lois Lane having Bruce Wayne's kid, and then making him grow up as.
Oh my God.
It's so bad and it's so cringe. It's like,
bro, Zack Snyder.
What are you smoking to come up with this idea? And why would anyone want to watch this?
This is the guy that said he wants to make a porno, right?
Well,
is this the same guy?
I mean, Zack Snyder wants to do a lot of weird things. Like, he wanted, what was that book he wanted adapt?
Probably some weird fucking porno book. So.
Oh man, I forget the author's name. Iran. He wanted to adapt one of her books, which is weird. It was weird.
But think about all these directors. Think about the great directors. You think about Scorsese. You think about I don't know, like fucking Tarantino or something. You're thinking about all these directors, and you get to Zack Snyder, and then all you can think about is this man wants to make fucking porn. Dude. Like, nobody has ever said this. No other director has ever said, hey, I want to make a porn.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tarantino said something like that, but.
Well, okay, Tarantino would make a foot porn, right? Because he loves feet. He loved them feet, really. But that's the thing. He says he puts feet in his movies because he likes that shit. But it's not like he's going to make an actual porno. Like, he makes
It's
edgy. Let's say edgy. Well, yeah, I like for a
here's
better
the
term.
problem with Zack Snyder. Zack
Crazy.
Snyder, in my opinion, is not okay.
He's on his
First
high
off,
horse.
I always see Zack Snyder as a bit pretentious because he thinks that a lot of his stories, like Batman vs Superman, like
So
Man of
deep.
Steel, they're deep. They have something to say. They really don't. They're very
They got
hollow.
nothing to say.
They're just
They got nothing to say.
they're really about the worst of humanity, which is ironic because the DC characters are supposed to be about gods who stoop down and try to be human, right? That's a concept that I've never seen in a DC movie. A DC movie
Yeah.
has yet to do this, and that's something I
mean,
feel
even-
like people don't understand about DC.
And even the first suit movie, the Man of Steel movie, what it really needs to be about was hope, but it came off as a jumbled mess of confusion and utter disappointment because you're like, huh? Who the fuck is this? This isn't Superman. Why is he doing this? Why did he do that to Zod? What? Huh?
Yeah.
And you're like confused because I'm like, how is this hope? It's like he snaps his neck. So you're telling me that sometimes you gotta do the bad shit to get stuff done. Where I'm like, Superman, that's not Superman's about. He's about hope. You know, in the darkest of times, you can find good. You know, it's like I don't understand how you get like it's like why. That's why I'm like, Zack Snyder was the worst. You know,
Zack Snyder was the worst
choice
pick, and it's
to write
ironic that Christopher Nolan is the one that picked him. Christopher Nolan is the reason why Man of Steel happened. Okay,
Christopher Nolan should.
I don't know if people know this, but this is how it went down. He is the one that Warner Brothers went to and said, "We want you to make a Superman Dark Knight trilogy-esque movie."
You know,
and he said he didn't want to make it, and so he was going to pick a director and produce the movie, and so he picked Zack Snyder.
You know, now that I think about it, that makes a lot of sense because even in the Batman Begins, I always something about Batman Begins, that ending always kind of made me go, I don't think Batman would do that. Or
I don't think Christopher Nolan really understands Batman. I think he likes the Batman movies. Like I think he liked the Tim Burton movies, right? But I don't think he's like
because he doesn't. Because Batman.
This is another thing that Christopher Nolan said. This is something I hope to God again. This should not be in the DCEU. Is that okay? Robin was going to be in Batman Begins, but Christopher Nolan hated the idea of Robin. He just absolutely hated the idea. He thought it was really corny. He never understood why Batman would have Robin. And this is what he said. This is literally his words. And so that's why Robin was not in Batman Begins. And since because of the Dark Knight trilogy, in my opinion, and also because of Batman and Robin, people feel like Robin is a character that shouldn't be in a Batman movie, which is weird, incredibly weird, because
he's been there since the 40s.
Batman, it's not. This is how far back Robin goes. Robin was introduced in number 3 of Batman.
Yeah,
he was introduced the beginning of 1940, just a couple months after the first issue of Batman. And guess who? Robin was introduced before the idea of Gotham City and Alfred. That's how far back this character goes. And people literally say he is not essential to Batman. That to me is mind-blowing. Okay. Robin is so integral to Batman that the fact that it's been how many years since we've gotten a movie with Robin really shows you that people are clueless about this character. Okay.
Yeah.
It's insane to me that we have not gotten Robin. They see him as a joke. They think the idea of Batman having a kid sidekick, which, mind you, makes a lot more sense. You could do it in a grounded way, right? This is not like a massive stretch, right?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Remember, this is a guy in a bat costume beating up people, but apparently him having
that's not funny.
Kid sidekick is a stretch. I don't understand.
Yeah, that's not fun. This thing, besides, I just want to say this one thing though. It's always made me go, "What the fuck?" Because in Batman Begins, at the end of the movie, he tells Ra's al Ghul, he's like, "I don't have to kill you," but he's like, "I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you." I'm like, Batman would not do that. Batman would save his ass. Okay, Batman does not. That's basically killing the guy.
I might have to talk about the Dark Knight trilogy because I'm not they're good movies, not great Batman movies. No,
they're not great. The only thing I really liked the thing that I always
besides
still
Dark
like
Knight
is
Rises.
still the
Dark Knight Rises is garbage.
I can't remember that movie. I just remember going, "You hide in the dark, but I was born in the dark." And
It's a
stupid
very
fucking line.
ridiculous.
Shut up, Bane.
Movie.
But no, I think that the Joker was the only thing that really always stood out to me because I just like that performance.
And
I think Heath Ledger.
And since then, everybody has just doubled down on the Joker.
Yeah, it's kind of like a. I don't know the actual term for it, but it's like. It's kind of like a what the fuck's it? It's like that good thing.
Like they're retrying to capture,
capture
the thing that they.
Yeah, it's almost like
lightning strikes once, and they're trying to capture it again, right?
It's like Batman media can only think of one Batman villain, the Joker. The Joker.
There's a couple of characters I feel like it's either Two-Face, it's either Scarecrow. It's either Bane. There's
if you talk about
those A-list,
not the comics. If you're not talking about the comics,
even in the comics, this happens in the comics because Joker. Every writer wants to have their print on Joker, right? Joker. They want to reinvent Joker. They want to do something interesting with him. The problem is when you do this, you get things like 3 Jokers. You get shit like what Jeff Johns is trying to do.
Wasn't there,
or you get what Todd Phillips is doing, which. Again, another movie okay, it's a well-shot movie, has some interesting ideas. I don't think it was all that well executed. It has really good scenes in it, but
I just moments. But
I just don't like this idea. And this is another thing too that I guess if we're going to talk about rebooting the DC universe is Joker, because we know for a fact that Joker is going to be just as integral to that universe as Batman and Superman. And so far, every Joker that we've gotten since Heath Ledger's Joker, I don't think was great. I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. Okay. And obviously Jared Leto is part of the bottom, what makes that bag stinky and trash.
Definitely.
This juggalo Joker that is not he's not funny. He's not menacing.
He's not even doesn't even feel like the Joker. It feels like a guy that wants to be like the Joker.
It's like this caricature. It's very hammy. And you didn't see the Snyderverse, but he has a scene in the Snyderverse that is just like.
Oh, I know about that. I think it's in the post-apocalypse, right?
Yeah, the post.
Yeah, okay, I know about whatever.
It's
a post-apocalypse.
It does feel like a Batman and Joker banter. But it's still very silly and just like Joker talking about giving him a reach around. Like all of this weird stuff, like with Jared Leto's Joker, in my opinion, needs to just go away. Okay. I think what they need to do for this DC universe, get rid of this gangster aesthetic, get rid of this like Heath Ledger.
I just thought about that song.
Stuff.
Remember that song they kept using? I need a gangster. Remember that stupid fucking song?
I don't even know what song you're talking
You don't remember that song? They kept using that song. It's where when he throws it. It's in Suicide Squad. It's I need a gangster. Come on, you know that.
No, I don't remember the song.
You remember it? It's like I need a gangster, and then blah blah. I can't.
I might have to go back. I can't remember.
They kept playing that fucking song. I remember that song was like on YouTube constantly. Man, you couldn't fucking move a muscle without seeing that stupid song being played. It was in the movie.
God. Oh, is it the 21 Pilots song?
No, that's something else. That was like no. This is a girl singing it. This is a. This is the only song I know her from. I have no other music from. I know about any other music from her, but yeah, that song "I Need a Gangster" because it's from Harley's perspective, or supposed to be, and it was just a overused song that I couldn't give a fuck about. But yeah, Gangster Joker was so stupid because when I think about, I'm like, this man killed Robin, this guy killed.
I mean, I can
This guy?
see him killing Robin, but I also don't
No,
understand why
this guy,
Batman wouldn't just kill
this
Joker.
type of Joker that comes off as a goofball.
Yeah, he comes
I
off
would,
as
if I
like
was Robin and this man killed me, I would be embarrassed, right?
oh
Because
man.
the real Joker, look, the Joker from the comics, that guy, the thing is, he is scary because
Well, depending on I mean, he
depending
is
on who writes him,
generally supposed to be
but he is
scary.
generally terrifying because he
Because
finds
there's some times where you can have like Scott Snyder's Joker is like very just horrific,
that one is
even though it
horrific
is
because the thing is,
still
he's
Joker.
the Joker, he's laughing hysterically, but underneath that laugh, that man is serious.
Like
If
in
he
my
wants to get
opinion,
shit done,
the DCEU should do like a mix of kind of the Killing Joker, where he's kind of and like I don't want it to just be
yeah, he has a
what's
point
his
to
name
doing what he
from
wants to do.
Batman 89. I don't want it to just be that Joker. Like I kind of want it to be a little
Oh,
bit
his name was
grounded.
Jack, right?
I
Yeah,
don't, but I
no.
also don't want it
No,
to
but I like
be
a Joker that he's trying to show off a point and it's almost like you can understand like what he's trying to say, but you're like, oh my god, this man's out of his mind, right? Like it's like he's trying to like he's so deluded to thinking that his point is correct,
yeah.
and to be faced with how wrong he is, but he laughs it off. Like it's almost like he doesn't.
Well, I just
Like
want
it's
him
like
to be obsessive and just be around in
yeah, he's
in the new
obsessive.
DCEU, like as a character who is kind of almost like Loki, but just constantly a villain. Like he is someone who's
Or he's
not
constant
necessarily the
annoyance.
main villain, right? I think
Yeah.
we need to get away from the idea of Joker being a main villain and just have him be a villain who's just reoccurring because he's
Yeah.
such an important part of the mythos. That's what I would want to see. And the Suicide Squad could have done something like that, because if Joker did appear in Batman vs Superman for just like a little bit, and then he appears in Suicide Squad, and he's always kind of referenced, and like I wouldn't necessarily mind that, because then it's more character building, right? It's not just a one and done villain. It's not a villain who's like, oh, he's gonna show up and then he disappears. Like, no, this is a character who's still out there, and he's kind of almost a mystery to Batman, right? Where he's just like, oh, 1 minute he's here, and then the next minute it's like months and he doesn't appear, and then he appears again, right? But like
It's more
in
like
those months we
he's
wouldn't
well
see,
known.
right?
Like
But
he's established enough where people either fear him, hate him, or both, or some even fucking worship him or something. Like there's an idea that the Joker is his presence is well felt by so many people, that he's there. And yeah, like he's an infamous character. He's an infamous person in the DCU, but yeah,
the
like
new
he
one,
has
yeah, at
the
least.
new you could the new universe where like he has like his established his connections with a lot of things, right? And yeah, like just do that, because you don't really need to make him the main villain again, because if you're doing a Batman story, Batman and Robin or whatever, the Batman and Son story, or I think that's the Grant Morrison, right?
It's just Batman and Robin,
The Batman and
but
Robin.
it
Okay,
is well,
I know it's
Grant
Dick Grayson
Morrison did.
and Damien.
It's just called Batman, the Grant Morrison run. There's another New 52 run.
Okay.
I'm forgetting the author's name, but he did Batman and
Yeah.
Robin, which I'm sure the movie will also take some inspiration from the New 52.
Do you think they might also? Actually, this might be too crazy, because Batman Incorporated was like a bunch of Batman. So I don't know if
I could see them doing that
maybe later.
later.
I think that earlier.
Yeah,
Just,
I don't
I
think
mean,
you
you
want
could
to
just establish that there's other.
movie.
I guess you could just say that there's other characters are like, because he said he wants to make the Bat family, so maybe he'll start slow with the Bat, then go into Batman Incorporated. Because that actually sounds like it feels like a James Gunn thing to do, though.
It does seem like a James Gunn thing to do. And the Bat family, as much as Robin is talked about in Batman vs Superman, there's no other Bat family members, right? Like we don't even see Oracle, or Batgirl, we don't see Red Hood, we don't see Nightwing. Tim Drake doesn't even. Who knows if he exists? So I do
Worth
think
them.
those characters should be, if you're already introducing Damien, they should just be in the Brave and the Bold movie, right? They shouldn't. It shouldn't be like we're taking a long time. Like I wouldn't have mind if it was Dick Grayson as Robin, but you know, he already said we're getting Tim Drake, so sorry, not Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. So
Damian Wayne.
so just
Batman and
just do that.
Son. But I think you said something about there was a rumor about George Clooney or something, so I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's that.
I don't know about
We
that.
can
That's
talk
so,
about that after. I don't want to talk about that here because it's a dumb rumor. I think that's going to get debunked. I think I think he could be in
That-
the movie. He could be in the Flash, but I don't think he's going to be the DCEU Batman, or the new DCU Batman. That's
no,
stupid.
Jose. No
No,
more.
James Gunn already said he wants to start fresh, clean slate with characters who've already been successful. That makes sense. That's why it makes sense to fix some of the problems that were in these other DCU movies that are kind of impactful, and just like put them as like, okay, this is what happens, and then
I
now
guess,
we're on to the new
I mean,
stuff.
it makes sense they keep some of this stuff because if you're a casual watcher,
Mhm.
how many people know about the idea that like would it confuse many people? Like,
I
what if
don't
someone
think so. It's gonna be
watches-
if the Flash. I mean, we won't know. I don't want to talk and speculate too much about what the Flash will do, but in my opinion, I can't. It would be cool if they did this. I don't think they will do this, but at the ending of the Flash, and this is not a post-credit scene. This is the ending of the movie. Barry runs into the new DCU Batman. So, do I think it's possible? Maybe. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. They have to cast someone. First off, one, you're casting without the director of the Brave and the Bold movie. Second, you have to now do that quick enough where no one knows because it's supposed to be a surprise. You have to make the costume. And then you also have to have who's playing Damien. And it doesn't even make sense to cast someone who's Damien because by the time they get to the movie, he's already aged out of the role. In my opinion, Damien needs to be young. He needs to be like 12 or 13, right? Possibly 10. I don't know how that would work. They would have to get someone who's a little bit older. But he's supposed to be 10.
School.
He's supposed to be 10, right? So I don't know. I don't know how they'll do that. But to me, that would be the best way of rebooting, right? Is like, hey, just like in the New 52 where we see everything's changed, you literally see a new actor playing Batman. And that's our first introduction. That would be probably one of the greatest comic book movie moments because no one would expect that, right? We know there's a reboot, but we didn't expect them to cast a new Batman that soon.
Already have it.
Yeah, already. That would be
Like
an
announced it later,
ingenious
but
move.
have it already planned. Yeah.
Because now everybody who sees that movie is going to be like, oh, shit. What the
That's
hell?
a new
What's going to
Batman.
happen?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's Donald Trump.
It's almost essentially a great way of advertising what's to come in the most simplest way. Right. So, I mean, I guess to end this off, we got a couple more minutes. I guess we'll talk about how they will form the Justice League because I know you haven't watched the Zack Snyder Justice League movies, but
Snyder cut now.
I don't mind.
Here's
the thing. I don't mind the idea of Batman forming the Justice League, but I do not think it should happen in this new universe. I think it should just be organic. They run into each other, and it just makes logical sense to team up. Is it coincidental? Is it too much of a coincidence? Maybe. I don't know, but the thing is, when you have Batman assembling the Justice League like how he did in both versions of the Justice League movie, you run into the problem where now it feels too much like the first Avengers movie, where that just seems like, oh, Nick Fury needs a team, and so he's assembling the team, and then they kind of don't like each other, and then they end up liking each other.
Yeah,
I don't want that idea.
I know it's just weird to me that Batman would do it because he's not trusting of other people, right? That's like his character. So it's like, and the thing is, we also know that man has a plan for like all of these characters if they go rogue. So it's like he's not like even if Superman's like best buddy or whatever, he still has a plan to take him down. It's like that's the thing. Batman is someone that like it just feels better if it's organic. It's like he
kind of like. Did
like,
you ever see that Justice League War movie?
Yeah, I saw Justice League War. I mean, I read the book, the comic it's based on, the New 52. Like, I think it's like an origin
I think that was
story.
Jeff Johns too. That might have been Jeff Johns. Yeah.
I mean, the comic book had like cooler stuff. And then I think that's the thing because Aquaman's in the comic like immediately.
But Shazam is replacing him in the movie.
Yeah, which is weird. But it's like whatever.
I don't. Here's the thing. If we're talking about forming the Justice League, Cyborg should not be on the Justice League. I don't know why that was a choice to begin with.
Yeah.
Never made sense to me.
Just put him in the Teen Titans or something.
Put him on the Teen Titans. Keep him on the Teen Titans.
Even as a character, he just feels like a Teen Titans character, right? And
in the movie, the Snyder and the Joss Whedon version, he was a character that to me felt rather pointless. In the Zack Snyder movie, he has an arc, so it's almost like him kind of coming to terms with his mother dying and him being this like Frankenstein and like, do I want to live on and stuff, and so at the end of the movie, he's kind of like turned into a superhero because, well, he has to like redeem his father and his mother because his father ends up dying, which is not in the 2000, the Joss Whedon version. All of that is cut out, and he's just sort of a character that is there. But like, still, he just, to me, it feels like, why does Cyborg belong on the Justice League, other than he's can be very powerful because of his condition, but it just to me feels such like a disconnect. Like I can't really see him getting along too much with the other characters, and I always feel like the other characters, unlike the Avengers, they need to represent a group of people. If that makes sense. Superman is like the everyday kind of person, someone who's like, he steps in when there's like even political problems for humanity. Batman is kind of a person who I feel like is more about kind of the criminal justice system and trying to obviously help some of these criminals. And then you have obviously Wonder Woman with Themyscira, Aquaman with Atlantis, the Green Lanterns with, obviously the Green Lantern Corps and the Guardians. So I feel like they kind of, they need to represent something beyond just them as a character. And Cyborg to me never really fit that mold. Like Shazam makes more sense because he represents the Greek gods. That would make sense, right? Any other character but Cyborg. If you're going to reboot, right? I would even say, and I will probably do this for the next video of like what I would want to see. I would kind of ditch. Okay, you can have the 7 Justice League assemble, right? It could just be, I don't know. You could swap. You can have Flash, Aquaman, and maybe you could put Green Lantern instead of Cyborg, right? You have the 7 of them.
Green Lantern makes sense.
But then get away from this idea of, again, the Avengers. Get away from that idea. They need to be almost like, I would say, like kind of like the UN, if this makes sense. It's a group of characters who all come together because there's a bigger threat. And so it's almost like, how are we going to deal with this? And it's like I can't even talk now. It's like a political. It's a little bit more of a deeper conversation. I'm blanking on words because every time I stream this happens. I get like tongue twisted. Philosophical is the word I want to say, which I am ashamed that I couldn't pronounce it.
You shouldn't be staying up late, man. Maybe you should be going bed early.
This happens all the time. I get tongue twisted on stream because I just talk fast and I talk way too much. But this is what I would do, right? I would just have the characters they come together like the Justice Hall, right? Where they come in. It's not, the Justice League is not something that happens all the time. It's like, oh, there's a problem, the Justice League needs to form, and we need to like have a discussion about this.
Also, I think it would be better if like it's not them that come up with the idea of the Justice League. It's more of like, since they helped, right, people just see them as, oh, this is like a league of heroes, and they give them that name, and they're like, ah, fuck it, they just take it.
Like they have more of a presence. Like they are dealing with world governments and all of this stuff, which is something the Avengers don't do. And the Avengers and the MCU were supposed to just be
in one movie,
a team that was like an offshoot of like the government, right? The government is the one that assembled. Well, technically, they're not the government, but SHIELD is like the government, okay, right? They work for SHIELD. The Justice League should not work for somebody. The Justice League should be working for themselves, and they should be working for the people. That's how I see it.
That's what I'm saying. That's why the name makes sense, because it's people give them that name.
Mm-hmm. Like by the time we get to a Justice League movie, that's probably going to be the end of chapter 1 of the DCU. And when we see by the time we see them, right, we should already know about the Justice League, and we should be kind of like astonished by who is on the Justice League. It should not just be 7 characters, right? You need to differentiate the Justice League from the Avengers. And the problem with the Zack Snyder movie is that it's essentially DC's Avengers, but darker. No, that's not a good idea at all. That's a bad pitch, in my opinion, because I've never seen the Justice League like that. Like every time I think of the Justice League, I think about the obviously the Watchtower, but you know, the Justice Hall, right?
Yeah.
Where it's almost like these characters, the Hall of Justice, right? Where it's like they all come together. And I know the Avengers has the Avengers Mansion in the comics, but I always, as a kid, have seen the Hall of Justice as like this place where they gather and they sit at a table and they talk. That's how I saw it as, right? Like they did that in the Super Friends cartoon. Like a government, yes, they should be. And not to say, I know that people might get triggered by that. Oh, why are you making them like the government?
Why are you making it political? Oh, that's what they scream it. Yeah.
But that's what they kind of are. Like it has that symbolism. So I would want to see.
They all want to make sure. I mean, it makes sense because they all want to make sure that their part of the world is safe, right?
Yes.
You know, their priorities and stuff like that. Where it's like almost like they have to like
think through.
Like it'd be fun. It'd be also be interesting if like they have to like help the other like each hero is helping the other person's like place of like for example, like Green Lantern would be in Gotham or something's happening in Gotham and Green Lantern, and let's say another character would be there, whereas Batman would be in fucking I don't know Atlantis with a different character, right? Like they're all helping, like they're all trying to like help each other out. You know, it's almost like Batman's like, fuck, I gotta I gotta have Gotham in the hands of another character while I'm over here, right? It's almost like they're kind of scared of the other hero to like, even when they're together, they're kind of like, ugh.
Well, I don't want them to be scared of each other. I think
not scared,
that seems
but like cautious of each other.
MCU thing.
I
want it to be
cautious of what the other like it'll be interesting dynamic to see how Batman would put trust in another character involved in Gotham when something's going down. Like Batman's like, what's that guy gonna do in Gotham? Because Gotham is my place. I know Gotham, and what's he doing? Like,
well, yeah, like, I guess that'd be more kind of,
and they got to go there. Like, yeah, they're almost like forced to go into each other's places. Like,
not in a negative way though.
Not a negative way, but it's more like, oh, I hope he doesn't fuck up Gotham. Yeah, skeptical. Like, you know, this is a guy that's mostly in space, and now he's in Gotham City with powers that are beyond like people's comprehension. Like he can just make anything, right? Do anything, for example. And the Batman's like, what the hell's going to happen? Like imagine like Superman or not Superman, like Wonder Woman going to Metropolis with another character. Superman's like, oh my God, I hope they don't destroy the fucking city. Right? Like that's the thing. Like they would be cautious of what each other is gonna do in their place. So it's like a cool dynamic because it's like kind of funny that that for me that would build trust in each other. Like that's the thing about them. Like that builds the trust they have with each other. Like it's through this experience that they go through that they find.
Well, they should be. like the thing is, like, I don't mind the way that the Avengers are, right? They're the Avengers, right? They're a team that are there to mostly
Yeah,
just
but they always work together and like yeah,
but it needs to be a
it's
different
always
kind of work together. Like this is what I mean. Like you need to separate the Justice League
yeah.
from
That's why I'm
being
saying you
like the
separate them,
Avengers.
or okay, separate them as like as a person. Like yeah, I guess what
Because
you
like
mean.
I
Yeah,
want them to be as a team, they are very trusting of each other. Because when you go down the road in the new DC universe, right, and James Gunn decides to do like Tower of Babylon, right, where okay, Batman has
where
sold out the
Batman
Justice
ends
League,
up
that would be more
well, not
impactful
by
knowing
accident.
their relationship, right? That Batman
Yeah,
and
but to
whoever
get to that
else,
right,
yeah,
but
to
to get
get
to
to that,
that point, I feel like it should still be that like these characters have to go through that experience to build that absolute trust in each other,
yes.
right? Because for people that are going to
Well, that
watch
might,
this movie,
but the thing is, you could do this is what the DCEU should do too, is
I guess you
sprinkle
could do
that in
that
other
throughout.
movies before you
Yeah,
get to a
sprinkle
Justice
before you
League.
get to Justice League. That's
Yes,
when they already have the trust, which makes
because
sense.
in Superman, in my opinion, Superman Legacy right out of the gate should mention just the Justice League. Maybe you don't need to show them, right? I'm fine with that, but like he should already know the idea of the Justice League. He's on the Justice League, even though he's 25. That's okay. I don't have a problem with any of that, right? What I want to see though is the fact that this is almost a committee. They're very analytical, even though yes, they're super powerful, but that's not how they approach it. Because this is the problem with the Zack Snyder movies is that they're just the Avengers. They show up, they're badass. You see all their powers, they kick butt and blah blah blah. But and you know they obviously have that scenes where they're planning. But the Justice League should be a lot more strategic, right? They should be again. They're in the Hall of Justice. They're talking. They're thinking things through, right? Something might not work, and they have to adapt, right? It's almost like tactical, right?
No.
It's not just we're superheroes and we're just gonna fly in and kick butt because, like something like in the MCU where you have the Accords, that shouldn't happen in the Justice League, right? Like there should obviously be some like caution about world governments, right? Oh, can we really trust the Justice League coming into our territory and doing whatever? That's fine, but they shouldn't be like, oh my god, recklessly killing people where now the government has to step in and do something about
almost
the
like
team. No, it shouldn't be
they
like
are
that.
their own government, right? Because the Avengers are more like a group of people
But they're willing to work
that
with
just
other
do shit.
governments. They're willing
Yeah.
to, yeah. The
Well, I
Avengers
think
just show up and do
the
whatever.
Avengers just work for one government, which is like Shield.
Yes.
And then when they're faced with international affairs, like, hey, you guys are getting out of hand. Because the thing is, like, they're just reckless, right? Because they go anywhere they want to go and do what they have to do to save people. But in that, there's destruction.
And you can
chaos.
and then you have the main members, right? And they're the ones who are like the most famous ones. But you can have Vixen, you can have Zatanna, you can have Booster Gold, Mr. Miracle, all these other characters who we know from the comics, Plastic Man, and you can have them represent other countries. So then it's almost like all these Justice League members are from different countries. They all have something to say, right? Where it's like, hey, if we can't go in and do this, right? That's what I'm talking about. Not, I guess it is political, but it's political, tactical, like where they're thinking through things, and we see that, and that also creates the conflict sometimes. Is because they're not always going to agree on things on a philosophical or moral level because they're all different, right? They all come from different backgrounds. We've never seen that in an Avengers movie. We've never seen that in a superhero movie where all these characters are just sitting down, sort of talking and debating, and that causes their conflict, right? Like it should be about their morals.
I guess you saw some of that in Civil War where they were sitting down,
but it wasn't done very.
But it was interrupted. But it was interrupted too because
and it was reckless
to go on a phone call.
It was reckless and it was dumb. We knew it was going to happen, but it's something where in the comics in Civil War, the Avengers weren't the one who triggered. It was the New Warriors, and they were younger, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense. But having the Avengers who are supposed to be established and are supposed to know better.
I think with Civil War, the comic book, it did feel way more like a political thing, but like not more like like there was a civil disagreement,
Mhm.
whereas in the movie it felt like personal shit got in the way, right? Whereas in the comic book, it more felt like they kind of have to do this now. Whereas Civil War almost
It's
felt
almost like a
they
mistake that
fell out.
they didn't know was going to happen.
Yeah,
Right.
and it feels just personal because remember in the movie that lady goes after Tony, right? He just feels guilt for that. Whereas in the book in Civil War, it's like, oh shit, we got to deal with this, and now we have to like come to an agreement. And if we can't, then we have to fight each other, right? We have to do something about it. Where in the movie, yeah, it just felt like a fucking argument, like a personal argument.
Yeah.
He's like, this woman said I'm an asshole, so therefore we can't do this. And then he's like, huh? What? And they're having a fight over that, like they're just angry with each other, like friends having a fight. And it didn't really feel like there was an actual. That's the thing. I'm like, yeah, really in that movie, you really couldn't pick Tony's side. Like it didn't feel like there was an actual side. It just felt like, yeah, why the fuck would you help the other? Like that's the thing. It felt like the Tony side felt like the bad guys in the movie, right?
Even though
Which
that's
really
not how
weird.
some fans are going to see it as, but
yeah, they're not. But like that's really how it comes. I mean, at the end, the movie is supporting Captain America and Bucky, not Tony. Tony's
the comics is like that too because the Tony Stark did a lot of messed up things.
I know, yeah, he did a lot of messed up stuff. I remember. I know, like, yeah, I mean, he comes off as a real asshole, right? This thing, he like, for example, with the whole thing with Spider-Man, right? Like, he fucking literally almost kills Spider-Man. It's so fucked.
Well, and like even Daredevil kind of like lectures him about like what he's doing and how it's going to have these ramifications, right? He gives him this Bible verse. So it's
so I guess in the end, the book also then falls in that category of
the Civil War is not like the
villainy
greatest story of all time. It's just an interesting premise. You know what I mean? Like
they
it's not
could
like
do a Civil War
great.
properly, like where there's an actual discussion and like
well,
like, oh,
to be honest, there was some I don't know where I saw this, but I was scrolling through Twitter and someone had an article talking about how they're going to do Civil War 3, which I don't want to just don't do Civil War. Don't do Avengers versus X-Men. Stop all this nonsense.
Wasn't the second one Miss Marvel and Iron Man?
No, Captain Marvel.
Oh, whatever. Sorry.
Yeah, it was dumb. It didn't make any sense. But I guess that's going to end it because we're close to 9:00. I want to see The Last of Us. So this is going to be just a shorter stream. Obviously, I know I'm not expecting people to show up, but I'll advertise it. Also, I want to give a shout out to the Fixing Movie subreddit because I enjoy that community. So, if you're curious about fixing movies or coming up with new ideas, I would definitely go check it out because the community is really good and there's a lot of posts there like on a daily basis. So, but I guess that's going to end the podcast. So, thanks for the people who are listening on the replay and our one buddy who showed up. But yeah, next week I am going to experiment because I know not all the time I can have guests. And even though it is live, I want it to still be like a podcast. So I'm going to try doing a solo stream where I'm essentially just pretending if I was James Gunn and just like kind of writing out some of the ideas that I would want to see in the first chapter and leading into the other chapters of the new DCU, maybe even casting choices. I'm also trying to think if I might have like some visuals to go along with it, some logos or casting choices, or just kind of like show comics that I'm taking inspiration from. So, yeah, so that's gonna be next week, Sunday. Unless something happens, it will always be on Sunday. This is just like a rare occasion. So, yeah, I guess that's going to be it. So, peace.
All right, bye, everybody.